I'll be resigning soon from the EFF. Then it means also I'm resigning from Parliament. We've seen GNU with the Advocate Mkhwebane because ANC voted with the DA and they managed to remove me. Being in Parliament again, it's so terrible that when you don't have numbers, there's nothing you can do.
I have to ask you about MK Park.
Well, they've approached me several times.
Spread the fire. Welcome back to SMWX, and today I'm extremely excited to welcome Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, MP, to SMWX once again. Advocate Mkhwebane, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, and indeed it's been years since I did an interview with the SMWX.
Indeed. I think it was 4 years ago. So you had just released the report into, it was the CR17, I think, bank statements.
Oh, yes. It was the CR17 bank statements.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That was you were the first one to interview me on that one, yeah.
I recall.
Yes.
You've been in the news, in the headlines so much over the last few years. But not much is known about you before you became public protector and even your early life. So can you tell us a bit about your upbringing, what got you interested in politics and law?
Okay, I was born in Bethel. Bethel is in Mpumalanga. But I never, we left Bethel when I was, I think, 3 years. And we moved to Hammanskraal around Bophuthatswana. So we stayed there, I think, for 2 years, 3 years. We moved to then KwaNdebele in Mpumalanga, Highveld. We moved because there were challenges of, my father experiencing challenges of, it's next to Pretoria, remember the Section 10 issue. And after that, even within the Bophuthatswana, not being accepted, especially also giving priority to the Batswana and all those. So then when the Ndebeles decided to then move to KwaNdebele, then my family moved there. So I grew up there. I did we were calling it sub A by then.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I started in Hammanskraal, but then during the year we moved to then Kwaggafontein. So I spent my primary high school, then finished my grade 12. By then we were calling it standard 10.
Right.
And then I went to the University of the North. By then, the Mpumalanga or the KwaNdebele government was giving bursaries for us to study because at first I wanted to do social work.
Okay.
Then they said no, they will only prioritize law students. So for me also, that was my second choice. And then I was exposed to law at an early age because I was a teenage mother by then, and I had to be faced with a situation where my parents were saying, okay, we need maintenance for the child from the father of the child. Then that's where I became exposed to that kind of field. Then I studied law, and I studied at the University of the North. By then it was called TEFLOP. And in fact, it was University of the North, but we used to say TEFLOP. So that's what I studied BProc, and we were doing BProc for 4 years, and then LLB for 2 years. So we started we were doing 6 years. Yeah. Then during June and December, I then used to work a local magistrates court, doing maintenance work and also doing prosecutorial work.
Interesting.
Then I completed in 1994. Then I was employed permanently as the prosecutor. I then started working at Mkobola Magistrates Court. I went to KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court. Then I decided to focus on legal administration. Then I worked at the Department of Justice head office. That's where I was exposed to extradition law, because we were dealing a lot with extradition law, the mutual legal assistance with foreign countries. That's where I started then to also travel out of the country to engage on those issues. I then worked at the Human Rights Commission. I moved from Justice to Human Rights Commission as a senior researcher there. And my experience is more on human rights related work, and especially the protection of the vulnerable groups. I worked at the Human Rights Commission, then moved to the Public Protector to work there as a senior investigator. I moved from the Public Protector, then I joined Home Affairs as the senior manager or director, Refugee Affairs. I worked a lot on the issues of refugees, asylum seekers, migrants. That's when I was also transferred to work in Beijing, the South African embassy, there as a senior, counselor. Counselor most likely is the third most senior in the embassy. Then to process visas, permits, and all those. I stayed there for 4.5 years. Then I was back to South Africa, to Home Affairs. Worked there in the research, still immigration. But I was then heading a section where we had to do research for the status determination officers, the ones who are processing or granting refugee status. Then I was then nominated. Actually, before then, I then, because I worked there, I think for more than 10 years, I needed change. Then I was approached to work for State Security Agency. Then I transferred there. I worked, I think, less than 3 months when I was approached to then to be nominated for the Public Protector position. Then I agreed. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So that's, the story of my life. So I've been in the human rights related, I have a vast experience in that, vast experience in immigration, refugee matters. Yeah.
Are there any cases you particularly remember from the prosecutorial days or experiences?
You know, we were doing a lot of minor cases. I would say minor cases because in magistrates court, you deal with assault, common assault, perjury, you deal with assault with grievous bodily harm, a lot of maintenance matters, especially those who apply for maintenance and who default. So I wouldn't say, for me it was one and the same thing. Hence, I decided to move and be exposed to international law, especially extradition law. It was interesting because then you prepare documents relating to the extradition agreements with various countries. So I think that's what I would say. It was your normal cases, which one would do. And you wouldn't say, I remember that particular matter. Yeah. But by then, I must say, it was more of, young people fighting, young people especially, not even old people, not even cases relating to gender-based violence. No, I'm saying this because now when one is doing oversight, find that police station, that's the highest. A lot of assault GBH, they relate to GBA, to gender-based violence. You go to magistrates court, they would say a number of their cases, they relate to that. By then it was not.
Right, right. And you've taken us to your interviews for the Public Protector, and, people don't remember now, but you were supported by the ANC, actually.
Definitely.
In that role. And how do you reflect on that now? Because they were very excited about your candidacy?
I would say apparently I was not the preferred candidate. Apparently they were eyeing for Ujaj Desai because I was nominated by an employee who worked under my directorate, Home Affairs.
Right.
And because she was employed actually when we had a backlog project, when there was instability in Zimbabwe. Then we had to, as Home Affairs, then process a lot of Zimbabweans who were coming to the country, granting them asylum permits.
Right.
So that they can stay in South Africa. It was around 2008. So she nominated me because she could see how we worked, and she was saying, you'd excel to work at the Public Protector because the Public Protector investigate maladministration and you delay. You are very prompt in responding, in acting on people's complaints. So the interviews, I was like somebody who, there was who's who during that particular process. Judge Desai, Judge Vena, Advocate Majola. Advocate Majola was once my lecturer at TEFLOP. All those. It was a good experience because then it taught me that in life, whatever you do, you are being tracked, because that process, the way it was done with us, they would then do security checks. They would even get comments from, you remember Corruption Watch was very much involved. They would get people's views on the matter. So for me, I then was interviewed, and I didn't even think I would get the position, but actually not get the position. Not to say I didn't think, but for me, I was like, now if we are being interviewed with this kind of people, it means then they will just focus on them. But what I knew was that whatever task I would be given, especially if you work in a department like Home Affairs, because that department service delivery is key and it impacts on people daily, from birth to the grave. And you need to be very efficient in doing whatever you do. So I was like hopeful. So he was the preferred candidate, but the interview was so interesting because for me, I was prepared and I was interviewed. And the interesting thing compared to now is that all political parties supported my appointment besides DA. COPE, they then they said they didn't vote, they abstained, and that was it. So it shows that there was a lot of support from various political parties. Yeah,
absolutely. You've spoken about so many different things, and one of the things we try to do on this platform is actually ask you things you haven't been asked, or not constantly ask about what the mainstream media is particularly asking. I guess what I'm interested about is, what was it like when you got to the Office of the Public Protector? At the time, the office had been through a number of high-profile matters. There was the Nkandla matter. The state capture report there was litigation over whether it would be public or not. And what was that transition period like? And how did you arrive, and how did you feel when you got there?
The first baptism of fire was one interview I did with Aldrin Sempia.
Right.
Because I was, still new. I knew how the media operates, but I never knew that, the twisting of whatever you're saying. And I was interviewed by Aldrin. I remember I was asking which matters are you going to focus on? Because now we knew the Public Protector after the Nkandla judgment, and that was when everyone knew about the Public Protector. There was then the state of capture investigation. Yeah. By then it was not state capture, it was called state of capture.
Oh yes, yeah.
Investigation. So I said to Aldrin, you know what? Because that office should be focusing a lot on, protecting the public, the poor, the marginalized. I'll focus more on those cases so that they are brought to the fore, so that people would know more about the office. Then it was blown out of proportion that I'm saying I will ignore or I won't focus on your high profile cases. And then there was this narrative that I'm a Zuma person. By then, you remember, because you remember DA had a media briefing before my appointment saying I'm a spy. I was I was a spy when I was working in China, and not having any evidence to that effect. And I think by that also creating a lot of problems, especially our foreign policy and how China relates to us, because I was in China for 4.5 years in immigration. I mean, if you are a spy, you are working underground, they know each other. And there are people from SSA who are working in China as well. They are known. But then if you are working underground, because spying, some people or other countries, they will always have interest in another country. They will have people in the media, NGOs, the ones who will be spying and going through the country, because each country has interest towards the other country. That's what happened. So DA then planted that thing that, no, I'm not supposed to be trusted, and I'm a Zuma person, which I never even knew the president before even being appointed. I was never, because a lot of people, even to this day, they think I was an ANC person, which I was never into politics. So after my appointment, then my first week in the office, actually, it was the week when we were supposed to present the annual report, the annual performance to Parliament, Portfolio Committee. Now I'm taking Madonsela's report to go and present. She also wanted to meet with me because we were supposed to have an handover. She was busy issuing the report on that Friday. I think we met only for an hour. She had to go and do immediate briefing. I left, it was a Friday. Saturday, I think they finished in fact, I think they issued the report on Friday. Saturday was the 16th, my appointment date. Monday, I had to meet with staff, so I couldn't meet with her. Again, it was an issue. Why didn't I meet with her? Why must I not take it's like hand-holding me. And we prepared with the team to appear before the committee that week. Now they're asking about the annual report. There's monies which were donated through Treasury, of course. And I'm saying to them, okay, yes, I see that. But for me, I think I would stay away from the issues of donations. Can that cost a lot of tension as well? Not only in South Africa, because there were issues in the American embassy, other European embassy. Why am I saying that? Why mustn't I accept the resources? Because for me is, if you have the public protector and SIU who are supposed to also assist in investigating corruption, and you have that in your NDP, National Development Plan of the country, the 2030 food document, why must you not fund these institutions? Why do you allow foreign funders to fund? Because for me it was like, then they will dictate terms, then they would want you to do things which you are not meant to do. Remember, you need to be independent, you do your work without fear or favor, and all those. Then I was asked about those, and it was twisted that I'm accusing my predecessor that he used foreign funders, but also the issue that the state of capture report, indeed, she requested additional funding. Pravin was the Minister of Finance then. The institution was allocated, I think, an additional 1.something million, 1.5. And then she delegated a firm of accountants, I think it was KPMG or Ernst & Young, one of those, to assist with the investigation. That is allowed in terms of the Public Protector Act. But then it depends then how sensitive is the matter, because you remember, when we do the work, you need to be vetted, you need to also be very much security conscious. Then I was also accused about why am I saying all those things, whereas they were in the report. Hey, then there was the issue of the ANN7. You remember the ANN7 that I told people they must only watch ANN7. And my issue was, you come into the building, first floor there's TV, ENCA. Second floor is TV, ENCA.
Right.
Around the corridors. And I'm saying, you know what? This is a free country. People must have freedom of choice. Make sure that possibly first floor you have ENCA, second floor you have SABC, ENCA, ANN7.
Sure.
Then again, it was blown out of proportion. So everything which I was doing, I then knew that I am then facing this. There's people who are watching over me, and again, not being trusted, because DA put that thing in people's mind that this one is a spy. She mustn't be trusted. I mean, that even led to, well, during the Section 194 committee, I remember one of the witnesses, Samuel, was saying, yeah, how did I know that she has a case of assaulting that complainant from Limpopo? And it was because the applicant lodged a civil claim against the institution. I wouldn't have known.
Right.
So they thought I'm using SSA maybe to track their communication, to follow them up. So there was that issue of trust deficit, which was also created by the DA and the media then. So I was just the enemy of the media and DA. Yeah.
How did you feel when Mr. Janji didn't come back to Parliament?
Hey, I laughed, I must say, and I said, sometimes you reap what you plant, and the way he treated me, it was uncalled for, because, all along, because other people now, some colleagues in Parliament would, but why didn't you resign towards the end when you were treated? I said, you know what, sometimes in life you take it that you need to be a kind of sacrificial lamb, or you need to stand your ground, so that some people will then see that it's not what you think in this country. Well, it's not black and white. It's not the ANC which you see. It's not the ANC which you could trust to think that it will defend you, protect you from being oppressed. Because I wanted to show the people that I'm staying to expose this evil system. Because we're fighting against the system. I think when you were interviewing me then 4 years ago, I remember I told you that this is a system which is so organized, and it's so organized in such a way that it's choreographed. Because whatever I was doing, when you issue a report, then you have media interviews, then you'd find your responses being in their affidavit when they take you to court. Even judges believing that instead of focusing on the law and the facts, and I also made sure that throughout my journey, and even now, going to court and being, insulted, that I'm wasting resources on, that I'm doing because I wanted to make sure that whoever is the head of a Chapter 9 institution after me, I'm just creating a space where they would do their work without fear, favor, and without also being subjected to what I was subjected to. But then unfortunately, people don't see it that way, but I'm glad that others are seeing it. So Janji's behavior was so disappointing, because remember the late Dina Jumat Peterson, who told us that this was a member of the committee, that they were going to change the process because time is now running up. Now your legal team is not paid. They have withdrawn, the attorney has withdrawn. Now they were fast-tracking the process so that they can finalize the Section 194 inquiry. And Janji is said to have then asked for a bribe, which matter is still delaying, and the police are investigating, but there's all the proof which we've submitted. But again, how the committee was protected to Janji Majodina, who were mentioned in the communication by the late Dina Jumat Peterson. So, when people also, when you give them the information and others were not trusting, no, it's not true. But here's the recording. This is what she said. Yeah, but Janji, I don't know where he is now. And I hope he sees now that sometimes it's not worth it to allow yourself to be used and to just trample on people's rights like how he did. Because as a member of parliament, you should be making sure that you protect institutions like the public protector, because they are there to protect the poor, the marginalized, people who cannot litigate against the well-resourced state power. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He seemed particularly opposed to you. Of course, he's denied all these allegations and said, he was impartial, but his actions often seem to suggest a particular direction. And of course, just from a legal perspective, I was always interested in the Section 194 because on the one hand, it had to almost act like a court, but it was full of politicians who are party politicians. So there was always that tension between, on the one hand, trying to conduct an independent fact-finding, and on the other hand, predetermined political outcomes which came from party headquarters.
Definitely. That was done. I mean, my issue was very much political because now they didn't want me to investigate, because all those complaints, by the way, were lodged by the DA. The ones where Pravin Gordhan was involved, DA and EFF then, who lodged the complaints, especially the complaints under the Executive Members Ethics Act, the CR17 investigation. That complaint was lodged by DA. And remember, I was accused that I'm protecting Zuma. There was no complaint I was investigating against Zuma. I'm protecting the so-called radical economic transformation. One issue is that of Ace Makhashula, which my predecessor failed for 4 years to finalize. And when it was brought before me, the Freedom matter, the only involvement of Ace and actually Ace, it was only on the oversight as the executive. But then their bank accounts and everything we requested, there was nothing. But at the end of the day, yes, you remember I was accused that I changed Madonsala's report by the judges. The complaint was lodged by DA and Kasak. And during the Section 194, Madonsala was there and said, no, there was no report. And I was clobbered with personal costs. You understand? So when I'm saying judges are very much compromised, I'm talking about what I've experienced. Because there's evidence before me that they told me and Bopoterel, this is how they behaved against me. But again, listening to mainstream media, how I'm being portrayed, and taking decisions based on who is involved. And unfortunately, that even led to people now persecuting the legal team, which is standing or stood by me, and now playing the man instead of playing the ball, and blaming Advocate Mpofu-Walsh, Advocates Kekana, I think even Bongalwane, remember during the Section 194 committee, Bawa, splashing all the legal fees. That caused a lot of problems for families, and you do that against your colleagues. How would she feel if people are doing that? And it's based on facts and something which I'm experiencing, and that's why when that matter was even thrown up, struck off as SCA, because that judge was not interested. I mean, I wouldn't be before the SCA if I was not the public protector. And you can't separate the public protector and the individual, because that's what we were trying to say, that I'm there and I was the public protector versus Bojanji and them, because the matter was lodged, or the appeal was lodged whilst I was still the public protector. Now he just struck the matter off the roll. I mean, the judgments which were used during that inquiry, it's true what you're saying, that it was supposed to be an inquiry on my fitness to hold office, but that's what Mpofu was always saying. But if you then have taken a conclusion that the judgment is saying, why are we wasting time and money and sit here and listen to 20-something witnesses? Because you've concluded and you managed to use the court's judgments to then deal with the section 9 or chapter 9, section 182 of the Constitution institution. Because then you should have just said, the court says, now we are removing you. Unfortunately, they wasted all those monies and now they come back and blame me. And some people are saying, why are you going to court? You wasting statement. Why mustn't I exercise my rights? But again, the rights and protect that institution, which is called the constitutional institution. Yeah.
Absolutely. Fam, I just wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know the 4 ways you can help SMWX. Way number 1, you can invite me to speak at your institution or company. Way number 2, you can advertise on this channel. Way number 3, you can become a member of this channel. The link to the membership is down below. And number 4, you can buy merch, that's books or hoodies. Now let's get back to the episode. All our contact details are in the description box below. What do you say to some of the findings in the judgments, the Constitutional Court judgments, which went against you and were adverse to you? I mean, what are your thoughts on those particular findings? Do you think there was some merit in some of them? Do you think that they got turned into political capital by some parties? How do you think back on them now? Definitely,
they were turned into political, weapons. Because remember the CX matter, how I made recommendations in that report, and the investigation which was done there, and the Pretoria High Court. The way they were so hell-bent in making sure that I'm punished. They then we were forced to submit an affidavit within 2 days, in a period of 15 days, facing 3 litigants, National Treasury, Reserve Bank, ABSA, So then they had this finding that I was not honest about my meeting with the President Zuma and the state security agents. And you know what? You try to explain, because they then turned the matter into, well, when you're going to court, the party which wins is how you can then push or place before the court the technicalities, because people will then defend themselves by saying that I listened to the president who then instructed me to deal with the issue of the Reserve Bank, of which it was not the case. And I didn't meet with the president. I met with the presidency, the legal advisor of the presidency, late Boni, to discuss, because when they were responding, they said you can't have, because in Madonsela's draft, there was still a commission. And by then, the Nkandla report was before the court, not the Nkandla, the state of capture. Remember, the recommendation was a commission. And they were saying you can't make the same recommendation, because it was like giving them an opportunity to comment on the provisional report. That was sent to them. That was sent to National Treasury. And they responded, and even Reserve Bank. So presidency responded and they asked for a meeting. Remember, I was blamed why I didn't meet with all the parties. I'm saying, but this one's requested a meeting. You provided your responses in writing. I remember National Treasury responses were, a lot of them were incorporated because they were saying you can't recommend the amendment of the Reserve Bank Act because already is amended as the banker of last resort and all those to put on measures not to repeat the same thing of that illegal gift. So I said I never met with the president, though the court then said I met with the president. Then I was also punished that I met with SSA. I'm saying, how do I not meet with the SSA? Because the contract was signed by the then state secret service, the intelligence of South Africa with the intelligence of UK, because normally that's what happens. And I needed to make sure that I can't just issue a report. I needed to verify, is this contract, do you know this the agreement? Indeed. I met with them I just understand, okay, what was it based on? Why were you doing that? During that meeting, it was just engagement. This is the contract. Now the investigator is the one who was writing notes during that meeting, because I was saying it's just engagement with them. You remember Kekana who testified. Now I was punished that I was not honest. I discussed the remedial action with SSA, whereas it's him who wrote those notes. I don't know why he was writing the notes that there's a danger of the Reserve Bank or something like that. And I think possibly he wrote that because the original Heath investigation, remember there was a proclamation which was issued. Heath never issued a report, and he said this will have a run on the rand. And remember, state security, there is an economic section. So the question is, but if they say this, what does this mean? Now it was like I discussed. So that judgment was wrong. If you go to the minority judgment, Mkhwebane, it's, Mkhwebane was so objective. He took all into account, went through our papers, their papers. And the question was, but if you say she's dishonest, how come she even disclosed everything in terms of Rule 53? Because they were saying, I am not honest. I was hiding the meeting. Now there were those notes, I never did anything. Then I was clobbered with personal costs. Remember, first time. And contrary to what Section 5 of the Public Protector Act is saying, that you have immunity from any civil litigation. But then that's when my problem started, because every litigant against the public protector report will then say we want personal costs. It was now fashionable until one matter which we argued, or the Pravin Gordhan and the so-called rogue unit matter, where Judge Madlanga, I think Advocate Mpofu raised that it's like now it's fashionable to clobber the public protector with personal costs, who said no, we can't grant that. Yeah.
You've been under huge pressure in terms of the cases that have been brought. More personal costs have now come out subsequent as you've left the office. I want to delve into that in a bit more detail, but before we get to Judge Punan's judgment, because I think let's put that to one side. You've said that you actually don't feel you have faith in the judiciary. You think that they've been biased against you. Why do you think that?
Start with Mlambo, JP. During the so-called state capture report, it said nothing in the Public Protector Act prevents the Public Protector to instruct any state institution on what to do. Remember, they were having issues with the violation of usurping the powers of the president in terms of Section 84 of establishing a commission of inquiry.
Yeah.
And there were some matters which were referred to NPA or something like that. And indeed, the Public Protector Act is very clear that you can refer a matter to any other institution during the investigation or on completion of the investigation. I did the same thing with the CR17 matter, where I referred the certain parts of the investigation, I said, to NPA and even the rogue unit, the so-called rogue unit matter. I referred the other elements to the NPA because that matter was before court. Pillay, Richter, and Van Locherenberg were appearing before court. So I thought they will proceed with that. So then Lambo, there's a recording. History has no blank pages where it says Madonsela was the Public Protector, nothing, the Public Protector Act. Then with me, no, you can't do that. That's firstly. Secondly is the issue of Judge Baqwa. Told me, I said the issue of Friede, that I changed Madonsela's report. Then it became clear I never changed the report. And we presented all the information. I think was defended by Ungalwane and another SC, I don't remember. It's a lady. Then come the Baqwa issue of the so-called rogue unit, which he says, and taking what the defendants were saying, that I said I never saw the Inspector General's report. I'm saying that in my report. I never said that in my report. I was very clear. We met, we discussed the report. It was delivered anonymously in the office. And then that's another issue. The issue of the Concord, where they said I was dishonest. I never disclosed the Economist report. And again, there I clarified I made a mistake of the meetings I had with the presidency, because it was 2 meetings. And again, not with the president on this matter of CX. The first one was a meet and greet. The second one was discussing that they requested a meeting. Now, the Economist we only used during the litigation, not during the process for that. But the people whom I consulted during the investigation, it was there in the report. It was the late good son, because the one who wrote that book, The Operations of the Reserve Bank. And we conducted comparative study to check what the Reserve Bank of South Africa compared to the other countries, whether their Reserve Bank is also provided for in the Constitution or not. And South Africa is one of the few, because we were checking how can this be changed, again, for the benefit of the public, because public was prejudiced by the conduct of Bankop, Absa, and them. Now, they said I'm dishonest and personal costs. And factually, and that I was hiding meetings, whereas that was not written by me, that was written by the investigator. And we availed all the information there. Now I'm undergoing that perjury matter, because, they bring everything to make sure the issue of Baqwa I've addressed. Now is the issue of the West one as well. I think it was Judge Jafta and whoever, where they said I changed the executive members' ethics code. And I was referring to the code which was used in the Nkandla judgment. Now I was blamed for that. We tried to even say reconsider, because here's the proof. Again, I was portrayed as if I'm just this rogue person, because that's what the system portrayed me to be. Incompetent, I don't know the law, now use the courts to portray that. And anyway, I would say they've succeeded, because I was finally removed using those, again, judges. And the other matter was the behavior of Judge Zondo, former Chief Justice. When one journalist, it was clear that he knew one of the judgments of the Concord, And we had even the SMS Yaka Abramche telling the SC of Parliament that no, that matter will be thrown out, don't worry. I was still in the public protector, wrote to the chief judge, because that is not a judgment. Remember, a public protector cannot investigate court decisions, but that is a conduct, improper conduct by a judge, because that is a state institution. Then he decided not, because I had even a proof that there were communication between Mlambo, Judge Jody Kolapen, and this person about that. And we have Hlophe being impeached for saying, we trust in you. I had that evidence. Zondo then decided to speak to Mpati, Judge Mpati, to look into that matter. Again, wrongly so, because I issued a report that this is what I found, deal with it. Then Mpati just said, no, there's no evidence. Instead of taking that report to court, because whatever is reviewed should be reviewed by the court, Yena decided to do that. I mean, the closure or the sealing of the CR17 records, why do it in chambers? Because we were the litigants, we objected to that. They should have made an application. So I would say a number of things, which I would say, to me, it's evidence that, was that fair? Is that supposed to be the case? Is one supposed to be treated like that? No. The current Chief Justice Maya, in the one of the matter which was before the Western, in fact, the
SCA,
it went to the Concord.
Right.
Then it was which matter? Oh, that matter when the 3 judges at Western Cape said the suspension was unlawful,
right,
after the 31 questions, yes, of Phala Phala.
Yes.
Then they said, no, we need to make an application, Section 18 application to implement that. Then the judgment delayed for more than 8 months, which again, their time frame, it's supposed to be 6 months. It went way above. I think I lodged even a complaint with the JSC. No response, nothing. Why are they delaying? Now she comes back as well. She issued a judgment. Actually, Umaya, on all the matters which appeared before the SCA, she was the president of the SCA. I think several matters where she also found against the institution, or even where we requested reconsideration on certain matters. She never. This one, there were things you mentioned during the judgment that actually even bringing the issues Zabo Basing Kabinde, that she was appointed, she found prima facie, which was nowhere in the papers. We were dealing with purely the issue, Uguti, the suspension, was it lawful or not? And I must say that matter is before the AU Commission, especially whether the National Assembly was it correct to use a judge to conduct against the state, a Chapter 9 institution now, not the president, a Chapter 9 institution. So we're still waiting for the outcome. So for me, those are the examples I'm giving. Appearing before Bonan, he was so dismissive. So, I mean, you just go and listen to that. You don't give an applicant an opportunity to present their case. Well, I think he wanted to just dismiss immediately. But then we presented our side. Then at the end of the day, you're striking off the matter, but you go ahead and write a judgment. You are attacking your colleague because, I mean, in the legal is it fine? Is it proper? Why are you doing that? Instead of just striking off the matter and that's it.
Yeah, well, to be fair to all of these judges, they dispute this. And I must say that, and I'd be happy to bring any of them on to chat, and I'm sure they'll come one day. But
one day, yeah.
I do, this channel is a little different to other channels where we don't try to, keep coming up with our own ideas. We allow our guests to speak.
Yeah, which is so good.
Sure, and allow the public to make up their minds. I must say, and I'm biased because obviously my father was involved in the litigation, I was a little bit stunned by Judge Poonan's judgment, where he basically insulted, legal practitioners. It's okay to disagree.
Exactly.
You don't have to win, but I found it a little much to insult people's intelligence and that kind of thing. However, of course, you've come under some fire for suggesting that there is a racial reason behind some of these judgments, or maybe that's misstating it. You can put it in your own words. Chief Justice or Maya or the judiciary, I can't remember who, came out and actually criticized you for that. Is there anything you want to clarify about those remarks? Do you think they were taken out of context, or do you think you maybe went too far in suggesting that South Africans of Indian descent are, I don't know exactly, are biased against you, for example?
It was taken out of context. I was saying the people who were involved in my persecution, because I was linking it to the late Pravin Gordhan, that unfortunately he was because the way he treated me whilst I was still the public protector, and when complaints are lodged, I don't know what was I supposed to do. But for me, it felt as if he is the one who, after him, everyone who's been used throughout the process. I'm not mentioning Indians generally. I mean, there's a lot of other Indians who called me. Others are members of parliament, and others like already wrote even an opinion to say, but there's nothing here which says this person. I was not generalizing. I was mentioning individuals. And those individuals are indeed of Indian descent. Because for me, it was a concern that all of them, I mean, all the witness, like who presented, there were more than 50 people who wrote to the committee wanting to go and give evidence of all races. But they decided to choose Van Logerenberg and Pillay. There were all others who were able to say, we were protected, our matters were dealt with. Yes, there would be those who will come and say, I was not happy because my matter was closed. But they were not given an opportunity. I remember even there was some organizations of lawyers and whatever who were prepared. They never allowed them. So those individuals and even members of parliament, or those staff of the parliament, they are Indians. And I'm not saying they were racist against me, or I'm racist against them. I've got the right of freedom of speech, and I needed to indicate that it's a concern for me. And even appearing before Judge Bonan as well, the attitude, the way he treated not only me as the litigant. I mean, after telling my legal team, telling him, this is the husband to the complainant, this Janji who commented like this, who's facing charges of bribery, you don't listen to that. They proceeded I was sick. They proceeded without my legal team. Then you come back and attack one of them. So I'm not generalizing against Indians. And unfortunately, DA has lodged a complaint with the ethics committee. Then they want me to respond to that. But I know that DA is not resting. They would find anything against me, and even the ANC, because the current president also, because some people, they would, it's what has been ingrained in them. It's as if I'm fighting President Ramaphosa, and of which is not the case. There were complaints which were lodged. There was evidence, damning evidence, which is there. About CR17, all those millions which were donated, those people are benefiting now. What do you call that? I've exposed it. Pala questions which I was asking. So then I'm portrayed as if I'm fighting. But that matter, it was not at all generalizing. It's those individuals who are indeed Indians. And I'm saying it's a concern because the way they behave. I mean, for them as well, the staff, especially the legal advisor, the legal opinions which she gave and the way they were giving, there were instances where we would say, no, that's not true. That's not how we said, and just mixing everything just to suit a predetermined outcome. That's factual. It's not that if you read it, it's simple English, and unless I'm not an English speaking person, but I was just saying, this is the pattern I'm seeing. I'll come back and say, because that's what I said. Then if I'm saying, I'm also seeing this pattern, I'll be accused, because if I say, you know what, the speaker is this ethnic group, Janji is this ethnic group, this one is this, then again it will be like, you are racist. Am I not free to, don't I have freedom of speech? And I'm not violating any person's rights. But I said it that, generally, I apologize if people think that I'm attacking any nationality. But that is very clear. I'm not attacking any person. And in South Africa, it's race-based, whatever we do. You go to Home Affairs, are you black, Indian, or colored? You go anyway. So what was I supposed to say? Maybe mention their title. I don't know.
In terms of the future, you're an EFF MP now.
Yeah.
We've had a major election. There's a new coalition government.
Yeah.
What
that grand coalition,
yes,
though they don't want to accept, which is very much disappointing. It's for the public as well to just say, are they happy with what has been done? Because I don't think people voted for GNU, and which was wrongly constituted. We've seen the agreement they had with DA, Helen Zile's behavior, how he controls them. And worse still, that process started with me. As Judge Hlophe will say, we've seen GNU with the Advocate Mkhwebane, because ANC voted with the DA and they managed to remove me from office. And now they are working together. And it's so difficult. Working in Parliament, we could do more if we had black parties, progressive parties, to change the status quo. Because unfortunately, with the current position, or 30 years after so-called democracy, the situation is worse. People don't have water, unemployment is so high, electricity expensive, basic things which people need. Our lives are not changing, and we busy insulting. And because for me is, if we can work together and change the lives of the ordinary poor people, that will help. So now, being a member of EFF, remember after the removal, then I waited until my term officially ended on the 16th of December, of October. Then I was approached by EFF, and I could relate with their policy, 7 cardinal pillars, because that's what I would want to see, change the living conditions of people, the poor and the marginalized. And that's what I've been doing as a public protector. So politics is not my space, and that's what I said when I joined, and I'm still learning. Being in Parliament again, it's so terrible that when you don't have numbers, there's nothing you can do. Even in municipalities, they don't care. These people be ANC and DA. Tshwane, look what terrible performance of DA for the 8 years, where they don't care about Boamaskral and whatever. People are dying, diarrhea and whatever. They are just focusing on the whites-only suburbs. So now the reality hits, because the impact I used to make as a public protector is not the impact which I am currently making, because I'm an ordinary MP responsible for the justice portfolio, and alternating the minerals. But in the structure as well, then they are people who've been there, who, there's seniority, there's commissars. Now, you need to, kuna limitations. So that's why I said to you, the next step is that I think I'll be leaving. I'll be resigning soon from the EFF. Then it means also I'm resigning from Parliament. And then I'm just weighing my options where I can move towards doing. I know in South Africa, one lady was even saying to me, you know what, I wish you could just go out of South Africa and apply for asylum somewhere, because whatever you do, when you are being attacked, by the state. Because an asylum seeker, you need to be persecuted by the state. So I'll be resigning. That's the issue. And I'll move to something else, which will just maybe move me away from that position. I think I can contribute more somewhere else than where I am. Yeah.
I see. Wow, that's I should have started there.
Yeah.
What lies behind that decision, and have you had any further thoughts on where you want to go from here?
Yeah, I wouldn't say for now. I'm still just checking the options. What to do and focus on. There's a lot of offers. Unfortunately, they are in politics, and I'll see, because one has to eat.
Yeah.
One, you have debts. I've got children.
Sure.
I must leave. Yeah, but I would have loved to just focus on helping, people, especially the professionals who are persecuted, in this country, especially Black professionals, focus on the foundation and all those, and just check what I can do. I would have loved to possibly work for, UN, AU, focus on human rights related issues. But reality is, it's not possible. Yeah.
Fam, you asked for some SMWX merch and we have delivered. I know you're always looking for ways to help support and grow this channel. So why don't you buy yourself an SMWX hoodie? Super comfy, super warm, and you can represent SMWX. You can check the link down below for how to buy your SMWX hoodie and help build and grow this channel so we can bring you more interviews, more analysis, and more educational insights. Now let's get back to it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the EFF now? Is it an acrimonious thing where you don't have positive feelings towards the party, or?
No. Definitely the party is the way to go, because their policies are brilliant and excellent. And if they could be given an opportunity to run some municipalities and even run some departments, they are excellent. And it's a question of saying, I think the contribution I could make, I feel I'm not fully utilized in my expertise. And you end up feeling, in that corner of just focusing on what you're doing, not holistically. I know there's leadership, I know there's people who've been there, but I would say their policies are brilliant. Yeah.
I suppose I have to ask you about MK Party, because many people, when they watch this, will be thinking that could be the move. We've seen Floyd Shivambu move. Do you have anything to share on that front? Have they approached you or?
Well, they've approached me several times. They've been approached. They've been, and even before Floyd leaving and and I think that's when Floyd left, because remember the lies by Samgelo, saying no, it's flawed. I mean, publishing that with SABC, I had to issue
yes.
Twitter.
It was said you had already left at that time.
Yeah, and I said, that's shocking. I mean, there's nothing like that. Because for me, I was like saying, I'm still contributing here. But, I've done a lot of work during the elections for EFF. I offered myself to go and be a ground force coordinator, work with the fighters on the ground, and learn a lot. And I mean, the sub-region I come from, Tembisile Hani, we were leading in Mpumalanga, the way we worked with the fighters on the ground. And for me, it was still saying I can do more and work with them. But I think I have done my part, and there are certain things which I think possibly is not for me. I mean, like any other organization, especially political organization, this issue of democratic centralism, because once a decision is taken, then you'll have to follow. And I think possibly that MK, their policies are almost similar. They don't differ much. And I think we need progressive caucus. We need those numbers. 2026 is coming. And I mean, saying that because being on the ground, knowing what happened during the elections, how we were making sure that the numbers, the counting, a number of votes were kind of, IEC was so inefficient, and it cost us a lot. And MK managed to get some numbers, and I don't have anything against them. It will depend what do they, if they're still interested, or I'll see.
Well, Advocate Mkhwebane, I hope this won't be the last time. We mustn't wait 4 years in between the two interviews. But we really thank you for sharing and being so candid with us, and in fact surprising us with some news that we didn't expect. But we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. And
thank you. I know your father will say yeah, because I know, actually, but I think there are some things where you'd feel you can contribute more, you can do more, and
Well, you've taken your decision, so wow, I think this interview is gonna. I always say this, but I think we're both gonna be in a lot of trouble after this interview, so.
Because of what you said.
Yeah.
I know, but I think that it helps, because we need dialogue.
Sure.
Sometimes people are just blowing things out of proportion.
Yeah, sure.
If somebody else says it, it's fine. But I think this needs us to just dialogue on these issues.
Absolutely.
Because why must we be afraid of saying anything? Actually, I've been, Minanje, whatever I say, it's just blown out of proportion.
Well, we look forward to your next steps, and thank you so much for joining us on this platform. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you. Like, share, comment down below. As you know, on this platform, you're free to agree, disagree. I'll be interested in your comments and your thoughts on this fascinating conversation with Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned to SMWX. Aye.